My cousin and my boyfriend used to date. They were together for over a year and broke up because he wanted to settle down and have a family, and she didn't want to do either of those things. I never met him while they were together, but about a year after they broke up, I met him in a bar. We've been together 2 years, and it was only about 3 or 4 months into dating that we realized the connection. My cousin is aware of the relationship and congratulated us, saying that it was good we found each other because she knew we would want the same things in the long run. In the 3 years since they split up, my cousin has met someone new and they're engaged. She's planning the wedding and asked me to be a bridesmaid. When she was sorting out plus ones, she asked if I was still dating her ex. She actually said the phrase, "Are you still dating my ex?" And I said yes. She then said that they didn't want exes at the wedding, which I felt was fair enough and was willing to just accept and move on. But then I found out that one of the other bridesmaids is the groom's ex-girlfriend, and 2 more exes are also invited to the wedding. So it's not no exes, it's just not the ex I'm dating. This annoyed me because I'm not allowed a plus one at all, which means I can't even bring someone else. Example, a male friend, and will be the only person without a date at the wedding of 200 plus people. I really would like a date because I am the family scapegoat. They don't approve of my life or my choices, especially going to university and my work as a teacher, and I feel that I should be a wife and mother before anything else. I don't know anyone there outside of family, and I would really like to have someone in my corner. And honestly, my cousin's point-blank refusal of the one specific ex I happen to be dating worried me a bit that maybe there was more to the breakup than they let on. I directly said to my cousin, "Look, it's your wedding. I'm not going to tell you what to do or go bridesmaid-zilla on you because I know you're stressed. But I also know that I'm the only person coming without a plus one, and other exes are coming. Can you please tell me what the problem is with his name?" My cousin then responded that she made a mistake ending things with my boyfriend because she does want kids after all. She's realized she's not entirely over him, and she keeps thinking about what could have been. I responded, "Well, then you need to call off the wedding and get over his name ASAP, because your wedding is in a few months, and it's been 3 ducking years. I am now not only no longer a bridesmaid, but I'm not even invited to the wedding anymore." My boyfriend is weirded out by the whole thing. He had no idea she felt that way. But the remaining bridesmaids and some relatives have contacted me saying I went too far and should have left it alone, as it is her wedding and her choice. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I was honestly going to accept this and move on the second she said that it was a blanket ban on exes. But then I found out that one of her exes is a guest, and the groom's exes are there in the capacity of guests and bridesmaid. When I realized it was just my boyfriend that wasn't invited, this honestly did worry me, because when just one specific ex isn't invited, that means there's more to it than if there's a blanket ban on exes. The first time we met was a year after they broke up. By the time we realized the connection, we'd already said "I love you." We talked to my cousin shortly after realizing, and she gave us her blessing. So we didn't worry about it after that, and just kept doing what we were doing. Not the a-hole. That's kinda whack. She's getting married. She shouldn't still be thinking about her ex from 3 years ago who's in a relationship. Everyone sucks here. There are a lot of different issues that you guys are blaming on a wedding. First of all, bringing a date to a wedding isn't going to somehow demonstrate to your family that you shouldn't be a scapegoat. That's irrelevant to the situation at hand. Second of all, if your cousin doesn't want the ex she still has feelings for at her wedding, then by all means, he shouldn't be invited. It sounds like she is moving on and has some wedding jitters, which isn't uncommon. And just because she said she's not entirely over him, doesn't mean she's got one foot out the door in her current relationship. Someone can be 90% over someone and still have residual questions. But you need to get over yourself if you think your date to a wedding is more important than the bride's feelings at her wedding. And in that context, what you said to her was dumb and insensitive. And maybe it's best that you don't go. Tell her fiancé she's the a-hole, not the a-hole. 3 months ago, I, 21 female, was out running errands and I accidentally slammed my fingers in the car door. I didn't break anything, but was wearing acrylics, and about 3 of them were ripped off and I needed a band-aid badly. My friend lived about 3 minutes away from where I was, so I called her and asked if I could come over for some help. She agreed and I raced over to her place as fast as I could. I parked close to her apartment and didn't even think about the parking situation. When my friend opened the door, she ushered me in and took about 10 minutes to get me cleaned up. Her roommate also came out to help, and we talked for 10 more minutes before I left. When I got to my car, I saw it had been booted. I called my friend and she said, "Oh crap, I totally forgot about parking," and her roommate came out to help me. I called the company and they informed me that it would cost $150 to take the boot off. I was completely distraught because I had no money left after grocery shopping, and I wasn't going to get paid for another week. My friend's roommate then offered to pay for the boot and said I could pay her back for it. I was grateful at the time, and I really appreciated it. But after everything was said and done, I thought that I was put in an unfair situation. Neither my friend nor her roommate informed me at all about the parking the 20 minutes I was there, and I wasn't aware that parking was permitted because I had never stayed over before. The roommate didn't start hitting me up for the money until the beginning of the holidays, and I really didn't have it. She didn't demand it, but did ask every week, and it became extremely stressful for me. I talked to my boyfriend about the situation, and we agreed on a possible solution, where I would pay her back half, but the other half should be on them, since they were the ones who didn't inform me about the parking situation. I mentioned this to my friend and her roommate, and they freaked out on me. The roommate even told me she would take me to small claims court if I didn't pay the full amount. I don't think what I asked for was unreasonable, and everyone in my life, boyfriend, parents, mutual friends, agreed that this is a good solution. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Roommate was my friend, acquaintance. We had hung out a few times with my other friend, but I didn't know her as well as my friend who I called. Edit. It wasn't no parking. It was regular parking that required a permit. Yes, there was signage, but I didn't see it because I was just looking for her apartment. I didn't have multiple violations that led to me being booted. It was private parking, and it is a college town, so they will boot or tow at first violation. Yes, the a-hole. It's not their job to ensure you park your car properly. It's your car. And if you've never stayed over, you should have asked if it would be okay to leave it there. I understand you were in a bit of distress, but I find it rather crappy that your friend's roommate fronted the money for you, and not only are you making them chase for it, you're now thinking of not paying it back in full. Yes, the a-hole. It's your car, your responsibility. Pay them back the full amount. They may even be willing to take smaller payments if you can't afford the $150 at once. Yes, the a-hole. You know why they didn't inform you about the parking? Because if you're old enough to have a license, you're old enough to understand parking signs. I recently had a lingerie shower for my upcoming wedding, and mother-in-law was invited as an olive branch because our relationship is very fractured. One thing I've learned about mother-in-law during the process of wedding planning is that she will not go anywhere, and I mean anywhere, without backup. So we had to invite her and a friend, so I was already a tiny bit annoyed about having a stranger at my party. Another thing about mother-in-law is she thinks you are fat if you are not a size 2. She is very smug about eating like crap and looking like that. I'm usually an 8, and I know she thinks I'm massive. Also, I tend to be insecure about my body, which isn't her fault, but wedding dress shopping isn't helping, and then having to be around her and her weirdness. The invite for the shower had my measurements, but mother-in-law and her friend gave me a joint gift of a size 12 corset, which mother-in-law claimed she thought would fit me. A ripped size 2 nightgown, which mother-in-law admits was hers, and her husband ripped during a drunken Valentine's ski weekend, and a pair of clearly used panties that mother-in-law and her friend both swore they didn't put in the bag. I was pissed. My mom kicked mother-in-law out of the shower. When I told my fiancé, he was also pissed and called mother-in-law up and lost his crap on her. I've never seen him so mad. She was clearly trying not to giggle, claimed after the fact she wasn't laughing at us, but her husband was tickling her, and then she gave a half-hearted apology. I asked if she thought she was still going to get a wedding invitation. She gave a non-committal answer. I asked if she seriously wants to go to the wedding, because if she does, she needs to change her behavior right now, or she will miss her son's wedding. I was really proud of myself and thought I did great. But I heard from a couple people that her husband was furious and saying the way I spoke was condescending and gross, and he doesn't even want to come now. Not the a-hole. You killed 2 birds with 1 stone. Kicked out your crappy future mother-in-law, and you were gifted with not having to deal with your crappy future father-in-law too. He should be uninvited for taking her side anyways. Not the a-hole, although I side-eyed the whole idea of a lingerie shower. But there are many things that I don't understand. But used panties? Wow. As long as your fiancé is completely okay with it, I see zero downside to not having this woman, her spineless husband, or her creepy sidekick friend at your wedding. You know your mother-in-law will pull something even worse. You and your fiancé do need to have a long discussion about boundaries with that side of the family moving forward. This isn't going to go away. I got married recently and it was a beautiful day. We considered not inviting my mother because she is not a happy, supportive person in our lives, and she has many issues with my wife. Ultimately, we decided to invite her just because it was a big day, and her brand of crazy is very quiet and not attention-seeking. I take my wife's side almost all of the time, and definitely every time in front of my mother. But one thing my wife does that drives me crazy is nitpick my mother's clothing and assume there is always a subliminal message. She was offended by what she wore to the rehearsal dinner because the dress had small cutouts on the side. But one of her bridesmaids wore a fancier crop top and skirt combo and wasn't offended by that. She was also bothered by the headband my mom wore to our engagement dinner because it was more bejeweled than the ring, and my mother-in-law ripped it off my mom's head and tried it on. Anyway, my mom wore black to our wedding. I've never even heard of that being a taboo thing. My dad got married a couple years ago and the bridesmaid dresses were black. My wife said it was offensive because it is a funeral color, but my mom was wearing a nice lacy one-sleeve cocktail dress, not something drab like you would wear to a funeral. She asked me to ask her to either change or leave. I might be the a-hole because she was the bride and it was her day, but I said no. I explained that I actually don't think she did that on purpose, and while I know she has been a jerk in the past, I think she would have worn that even if she liked us. My wife was understandably hurt and felt I didn't have her back on our big day. I even offered to have the color changed in photos, though thankfully my mom just disappeared during family pictures because she either didn't want to be in them or assumed she wasn't wanted. Not the a-hole. I've worn black dresses, like LBD cocktail style, to weddings. It's not like your mom wore a mourning veil and covered herself head to toe like a Victorian widow. I think your wife is oversensitive due to past history and sees insults where there aren't any. Not the a-hole. Totally normal color to wear at a wedding, and she's not even prominent in the photos. It's your big day too, and I'm sure dealing with telling your mom that she needs to change would be a massive headache. Not the a-hole. However, I think there's a reason your mom doesn't support your relationship. In this case, it sounds like a bratty daughter and her mom are involved. Your mother-in-law was rude as duck at the rehearsal. And if your mom is wearing something just as fancy as others involved in the wedding, your wife is looking for a reason to hurt her. And it's just as much your day as it is your wife's. If your mom was being appropriate, you should have gotten to enjoy your mom being there. I bet it hurt she couldn't have pictures with her son for his wedding. My wife has a complicated relationship with her dad, to say the least. She grew up in a single-parent household in an extremely rough neighborhood. Her dad always tried their best to provide for her and her brothers. He is currently serving a life sentence. Despite this, she has fond memories of her dad. Every year around her birthday, she receives a letter from her dad. She's never opened one of them, but she does keep them. I don't know the reason why, and I frankly don't care. It's her dad, with whom she has formed a deep emotional connection. These letters are kept in a marked box somewhere in our closet. My mom hates the fact that my wife is from a poor, rougher neighborhood. She's made insensitive comments in the past surrounding my wife's upbringing. Everything from insinuating my wife is a gold digger to calling my wife's brother one of them. When my mom discovered that my wife's father is in jail, her comments only got worse. I didn't speak to my mom for years because of her behavior. This past year, my mom seems to have had a change of heart of sorts and has been rather supportive. She reached out and apologized for her past actions and has actually shown that she's changed. Her apology doesn't necessarily make up for the years of comments towards my wife, and I don't think our relationship will ever fully restore. But I do appreciate her genuine support and effort. A few days ago, my mom showed up at our door, completely unannounced. I wasn't home at the time, but my wife didn't seem to have a problem with her presence and offered her a cup of tea. It's good to mention that our house is a bit of a mess right now because we are in the process of moving out. Somehow, in some way, my mom found the box containing the letters from her father. She opened one, then got mad at my wife for talking to a dirty criminal, keeping in mind that my wife has never opened these letters and has no clue what they say inside. When I came home, I find my mom ripping up the letters while yelling at my wife. My wife is silent, so I step in to try and calm my mom down. To get my mom to listen to me, I end up yelling at my mom to shut up. It takes her almost an hour to calm down and leave. The next day, I get a call from my family members calling my wife a terrible person and that my mom did the right thing by ripping them up. My brother tells me I had no right to yell at my mom like that and that I should apologize to her. My wife thinks I should apologize and is starting to believe that maybe my mom was right. Oh dear. I could write 5 paragraphs breaking down every ducked-up behavior you describe here, but it would be pointless. The moment she opened a sealed letter addressed to another person, your mother became the a-hole in a way that's impossible to defend or justify. The rest is just bat-crap behavior meant to project her from consequences and shift the blame on you two. And of course, she drags your brother into this. I'm not surprised at all. Not the a-hole. 100% not the a-hole. You don't get to destroy other people's possessions because you disagree with them. Ever. In fact, I think everyone here is underreacting and would be cutting contact with mom again. She came to your home, uninvited and unannounced, snooped enough to find your wife's letters, unsealed or unopened one, read it, destroyed them, and then had the gall to call someone else a dirty criminal and act superior. Nope. No way should this level of disrespect for your spouse ever be considered acceptable.